Okay. What chapter is this? Chapter 20, page 283. Chapter 14. Verse 1, same as in Luke. According to Volkmar, it would be better for him if he had not been born, or if a millstone were hanged about his neck and he were cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. 3 to 9 inclusive, same as in Luke. So, likewise, ye, when ye shall have done all those things which are commanded you, 11, 12, and 13, substantially, as in Luke 14. And he sent them away, saying, Go show yourselves unto the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. 15, 16, and 17, same as in Luke 18. There are not found returning to give glory unto God. And there were many lepers in the days of Eliseus the prophet, and none of these were cleansed except Naaman the Syrian. 19 to 37, substantially the same as in Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 18, verses 1 to 18 inclusive, same as in Luke 19. Jesus said to him, Do not call me good. One is good, the Father. 20 to 30 inclusive, same as in Luke. Verses 31 to 34 inclusive of Luke, not Marcion. 31 in place of 35 to 43 inclusive in Luke were this verse and the following. And it came to pass, as he came near Jericho, a blind man cried out, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. 32. When he had healed him, he said, Thy faith hath saved thee. Chapter 16. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 to 8. Inclusive, same as in Luke. And Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come unto this house. 10 to 28, inclusive, same as in Luke. Verses 29 to 48 of Luke, not Marcion. Chapter 17. Luke chapter 20, verses 1 to 8 inclusive, same as in Luke. Verses 9 to 18 of Luke, not Marcion. 9, 19 of Luke. And the chief priests and the scribes the same hour sought to lay hands on him, and they feared the people. 25, 35 of Luke. Up 10 to 20. Damn, it's tough to keep not focus, just keep in line with this. 10 to 24 inclusive, same to 20 to 34 of Luke. 25, 35 of Luke. But they who shall be accounted worthy of God to obtain that word and the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. 26, same as 36 of Luke. Verses 37 and 38 of Luke, not Marcion. 27 to 35 inclusive, same as 39 to 47 of Luke. Chapter 18. Luke chapter 21. Verses 1 to 17 inclusive, same as in Luke. Verses 18 of Luke, not Marcion. 18 and 19, same as in 19 and 20 of Luke. Verses 21 and 22 of Luke, not Marcion. 20 to 35 inclusive, same as 23 to 38 of Luke. Dr. Lardner thought the first 18 verses of 21st of Luke were not in Marcion, but later authorities included VV 1 to 17. Chapter 19, Luke chapter 22. Verses 1, 2, and 3, same as in Luke. 4. And he communicated with the captains how he might betray him unto them. 5, 6, and 7, same as in Luke. 8. And he said to Peter and the rest, Go and prepare that we may eat of the Passover. Some Greek, I believe. 19 to 13 inclusive, same as in Luke. 14. And he sat down and the 12 apostles with him. 15, same as Luke, except pros autos in Luke. Verses 16, 17, and 18 of Luke, not Marcion. 16 to 24 inclusive, same as 19 to 27 of Luke. Verses 28, 29, and 30 of Luke, not Marcion. 25 to 28 inclusive, same as 31 to 34 of Luke. Verses 35 to 38 of Luke, not Marcion. 29 to 38 inclusive, substantially the same as 39 to 48 of Luke. Verses 49, 50, and 51 of Luke, not Marcion. 39 to 49 inclusive, same as 52 to 62 of Luke. 50 substantially the same as 63 of Luke, 51, 64 of Luke. And striking him, they said, prophecy, who is it that smote thee? 52 to 58 inclusive, same as 65 to 71 of Luke, chapter 20, Luke, chapter 23. Verse 1, same as in Luke. 2. And they began to accuse him, saying, we found this fellow perverting the nation and destroying the law of the prophets, forbidding to give tribute to Caesar and turning away the woman and children. 33 to 32 inclusive, same as in Luke. 33. And coming to the place called the place of Calvary, place of a skull, craniotopus, they crucified him and divided his garments, and the sun was darkened. 34 to 42 inclusive, same as in Luke, excepting from Luke the portions contained in verse 33 of Marcion. Verse 43 of Luke, not Marcion. 43, same as 44 of Luke. 44. 45 of Luke. And the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. 45. 46 of Luke. And crying out with a loud voice, he expired. 46, 47, and 48, same as 47, 48, 49 of Luke. 49. 50 to 53 of Luke. And behold, a man named Joseph, taking down the body, wrapped it up and placed it in a hewn tomb. 50 and 51, same as 54 and 55 of Luke. 52, 56 of Luke. And returning, they rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. Chapter 21, Luke 20, chapter 24, verses 1 to 4, inclusive, same as in Luke. 5. As they were afraid and bowed down their face to the earth, those in white clothing said to them, why seek ye the living among the dead? 6. He has risen. Remember what he said while yet living. Etion. 7. That it was necessary for the Son of Man to suffer and be delivered up. 8 to 24, same as in Luke. 25. Then he said to them, O fools, and slow to believe all that he said unto you. 26, same as in Luke. Verse 27 of Luke, not Marcion. 27 to 30, inclusive, same as 28 to 31 of Luke. 31, 32 of Luke. And they said to one another, did not our hearts burn with us while he talked with us by the way? 32 to 36 inclusive, same as 33 to 37 of Luke. 37, 38, 39 of Luke. And he said unto them, why are ye troubled? Behold my hands and my feet, a spirit hath not bones as ye see me have. 38 to 41 inclusive, same as 40 to 43 of Luke. 42, 44 of Luke. These are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you. Verse 45 of Luke, not in Marcion. 43. 46 of Luke, that thus is behooved Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day. 44 to 48 inclusive, same as 47 to 51 of Luke, verses 52 and 53 of Luke, not in Marcion. From the foregoing synopsis, the reader can write out the Gospel of Marcion and will have the text of that Gospel very nearly as it stood in the 4th century. The English reader may pass over as unimportant the Greek readings not translated and may adopt the corresponding text of Luke. Marcion and Luke. The question of priority as between these Gospels is one of the most interesting connected with the history of early Christian literature. From the commencement of the 3rd down to the beginning of the present century, it has been fashionable to accuse Marcion of corrupting the Gospel of Luke, the emphatic and often repeated assertions of Tertullian and Epiphanius to that effect having been deemed sufficient authority. Bishop Marsh was one of the first to do Marcion justice. He said there was no proof that Marcion used Luke's gospel at all. Since then, many of the most intelligent German critics have come to the same conclusion. Baring Gould also says Marcion was too conscientious and earnest a man willfully to corrupt a gospel. This author thinks that the church of Sinope, where Marcion formerly resided, had been furnished by Paul with a collection of the records of the life and teaching of Christ, that Marcion thus obtained his gospel and brought it to Rome. Again, Marcion's gospel contained a different arrangement of the narrative from the canonical Luke and was without many passages which it is not possible to believe he willfully excluded. He afterwards speaks of differences of arrangement which are unaccountable on the theory that Marcion corrupted Luke, and says that Marcion's gospel was without several passages which apparently favor his views. Canon Westcott is equally explicit in acquiring Marcion from the accusation made against him by the early fathers of the church. He says, Tertullian and Epiphanius agree in affirming that Marcion altered the text of the book, which can be received to suit his own views, and they quote many various readings in support of the assertion. Those which they cite from the epistles are certainly insufficient to prove the point, and on the contrary, they go to show that Marcion preserved without alteration the text which he found in his manuscript. Of the 7 readings noticed by Epiphanius in the epistles, only 2 are unsupported by other authority, and it is altogether unlikely that Marcion changed other passages when, as Epiphanius himself shows, he left untouched those which are most directly opposed to his system. It is one of the most hopeful signs of the times that men, even in religious matters, can vindicate the character of an adversary after it has been aspersed for 1,500 years. Some writers still persist in repeating the old slander, but the more candid and intelligent opinion of Westcott and Barry Gold is supported by Selmler, Greichbach, Loeffler, Schmidt, Schleiermacher, Hahn, and many others. These writers, perceiving how little reliance is to be placed upon the statements of the fathers in matters of critical exegesis or of authorship, or upon their assertions concerning the heretics, have examined carefully the text of Marcion, and finding the statements of Tertullian and Epiphanius unsupported by internal evidence, have rejected them altogether. Which was first written? Let us now see if we cannot ascertain with reasonable certainty which was first written, the Gospel of Luke or the Gospel of Marcion. The question of priority in this case is closely connected with that of brevity. The first 3 chapters of Luke were entirely wanting in Marcion, except the opening clause in the 3rd chapter, which was the commencement of the Gospel of Marcion, in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. The balance of the 1st chapter of Marcion is contained with some variations in the 4th of Luke. About half that chapter is wanting entirely in Marcion. After passing this, the different chapters of the 2 Gospels correspond, the 2nd of Marcion with 5th of Luke, 3rd of Marcion with 6th of Luke, and so on. The Gospel of Luke is the most copious throughout. Number of verses in Luke in excess of those in Marcion is as follows. In chapter 7, 7 verses. In chapter 8, 1. In chapter 11, 10. In chapter 12, 3. In chapter 13, 17. Chapter 14, 5. Chapter 15, 22. In chapter 8, 4. In chapter 19, 20. In chapter 20, 12. In chapter 21, 3. In chapter 22, 13. In chapter 23, 1. And in chapter 24, 4. Total 122 verses. To add to this, add the excess of 23 verses in the 4th chapter of Luke, and we have altogether 145 verses, or more than 3 average chapters. Add the first 3 chapters of Luke, which are entirely wanting in Marcion, and the result is more than 6 chapters, or more than 1/4 of the entire Gospel of Luke, wanting in Marcion. But this is not all. In a number of places, the verses of Marcion are shorter. Then again, 2 or more verses of Luke are contained in substance, one of Marcion, and in one place, 9 verses of Luke in 2 of Marcion. The law of accretion, Luke and Marcion compared. Leaving out of view for the present the wholesale accumulation of matter aggregating 315 verses, the law of accretion will be well illustrated by those cases where 1 or more verses in Marcion are found, swollen into several in Luke, and where a single passage has additions. They are as follows. Marcion, chapter 1, verse 4, saying, "Let us alone, what have we to do with thee, Jesus?" Luke chapter 4, verse 34, saying, "Let us alone, what have we to do with thee, Jesus of Nazareth?" The difference is important. According to Matthew, the parents of Jesus, when they returned from Egypt, being warned of God in a dream, turned aside. They were going to Bethlehem or Jerusalem, in the parts of Galilee that a certain prophecy might be fulfilled. The language does not imply that Nazareth was their residence. The theory of the author of Luke was that Nazareth was their residence. Accordingly, in this passage, which, though followed in Mark, has no parallel in Matthew, Jesus is addressed as of Nazareth, a phrase not in Marcion. 2. A corresponding variation will be found in Marcion 1:10. And he came to Nazareth, and as his custom was, etc. Luke 4:16. And he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, etc. These are probably interpolations made for the purpose of establishing Nazareth as the birthplace of Jesus. 3. Marcion 3:19. And the whole multitude sought to touch him. Luke 6:19. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him and healed them all. There is no reason why Marcion, who had not rejected the miracles of Christ, should omit the closing sentence. It is more probable that it was added in Luke to give expression to a very natural inference on the part of the writer as to the object of the multitude in pressing forward towards Jesus and seeking to touch him. There is no parallel in the other Gospels. Hold on. Allergies are real bad today. I typically have a little mute button that I got, but I'll have to turn it on later. Marcion 4:29. Wait, we're in 4. Marcion 4:29. And going into the house of Pharisees, he ate with him. Luke 7:36. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him. And he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. 5. Jesus and the sinful woman. Marcion 4:30. But a sinful woman standing near before his feet washed them with tears and anointed them and kissed them. Luke 7:37-38. And behold, a woman in the city who was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment. 38. And stood at his feet behind him, weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. This touching incident, simply and beautifully told in the 16 Greek words of Marcion, is spun out by the author of Luke into more than 3 times the number, with no improvement in the story. The washing of the feet of Jesus, which in Marcion is left as a figurative expression denoting the great grief of the woman, stated in Luke is an actual fact. While weeping, she began to wash his feet with tears. Then, having washed them, she must needs wipe them with the hairs of her head. There can be but little doubt that Marcion was first written, and that the author of Luke drew upon his imagination in filling up the text. I'm going to keep going. Again, there is a similar variation in the following reference to the same transaction. 6. Marcion 4:36. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thy house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet. She has washed my feet with her tears, and has anointed them and kissed them. Luke 7:44-46. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman, since the time I came in, hath not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. The use here by Jesus himself of the figurative expression, she hath washed my feet with tears, misled the author of Luke into conceiving and hence expressing a literal and complete washing of feet, followed by wiping them in the manner described. This account is not in the other canonical Gospels. It is simply a question between Marcion and Luke. 7. Jesus rebuking the storm. Marcion 5:22. He was sleeping with the sailors, and he arose and rebuked the wind and the sea. Luke 8 23 and 24. But as they sailed, he fell asleep, and there came down a storm of wind on the lake, and they were filled with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perished. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. The language of Marcion is as given by Epiphanius. Let me see. Yeah. Epiphanius. Where is it? Sorry. It was probably. The language of Marcion, as given by Epiphanius, is highly elliptical. It was probably preceded by some sentence having reference to the storm. The text of the synoptics is more copious, especially Mark, in which a pillow is provided for the head of Jesus. See, I moved that little thing just to center things up, completely lost my place. So I don't do anything except just read what's in front of me. If I mess with anything, get off topic, I'm gonna screw it up. Just saying. What am I? 8. Healing of the woman. Marcion 5:41. And a woman touching him was healed of an issue of the blood. And the Lord said, Who has touched me? Luke 8:43 to 45. And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, who had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed by any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Jesus said, Who touched me? And when all denied, Peter and they who were with him said, Master, the multitude thronged thee and pressed thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? If these accounts come from a common manuscript, it has passed through many hands before reaching the author of Luke. Looks like 9 and 10. Marcion 6:22, saying, The Son of Man must suffer many things and be put to death, and after the 3 days rise again. Marcion 6:30, and behold, 2 men talked with him, Elias and Moses, in glory. Yeah, it breaks up pretty weird on the next page. Luke 9:22, saying, The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be slain and be raised the 3rd day. Luke 9:30 and 31, and behold, there talked with him 2 men who were Moses and Elias, who appeared in glory and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. It's going to get real interesting if I've got to go back and forth on the pages. I'm not sure I'm going to do that yet. Whatever, I'll get there. 11, 12, 13, and 14. Yeah, I'm just going to do all those at once. One side. Marcion 6:34. From the cloud a voice saying, This is my beloved Son. And he said unto them, O fatherless generation, how long shall I suffer you? In that hour he rejoiced in the Spirit and said, I thank thee, Lord of heaven, that etc. Balance of the verse substantially as in Luke. Master doing, what shall I obtain in life? Luke 9. And there came a voice out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And Jesus answering said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and suffer you? In that hour Jesus rejoiced in the Spirit and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that, etc. Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Maybe I should just go back and forth with those. But if I go back and forth, like between Marcion and Luke, then it breaks up the statement. So I'm not sure yet. I'll figure this up. I got about 300 more pages to go. So I'm in no hurry. The word Aeonian, eternal, was inserted by the author of Luke to make more clear the meaning of Marcion. The argument of Tertullian that Marcion struck out Aeonian so that the question might be confined to this life is weak and untenable. 15, 16, and 17. Mark 7:26. And he said unto him, What is written in the law? Luke 10:26. He said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou? Marcion 8:5. And shall go unto him a midnight asking for 3 loaves. Luke 11:5, and shall go unto him at midnight and say unto him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves. Marcion 8:6, ask and it shall be given. Some Greek. Luke 11, ask and it shall, 11:9, ask and it shall be given you. Some more Greek. Let's see. 18, 20, 19, and 20. 18, 19, and 20. Marcion 8, 7, 8. Who of you, father, who of you being a father, if his son ask a fish, instead of a fish, will give to him a serpent, or instead of an egg, a scorpion? Luke 11, 11 to 13. If a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he for a fish give him a serpent? Or if he shall ask an egg, will he offer him a scorpion? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to them that ask him? Marcion 8:24. This is an evil generation. They seek a sign, no sign shall be given it. Luke 11:29. This is an evil generation. They seek a sign, and there shall no sign be given it, but the sign of Jonas the prophet. Marcion 9:4. I say unto you, be not afraid of. Luke 12. I didn't see that. I say unto you, be not afraid of them that kill the body. Fear him who has power after killing to cast into hell. Ius Gainen. Luke 12:4-5. But I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom ye shall fear. Fear him who, after he hath killed, hath power to cast into hell. Iestin Ganinen, I say unto you, fear him. The last passage illustrates throughout the prevailing practice of verbal accumulation, the language of Jesus. I say unto you, because when it reaches the author of Luke, I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, becomes be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do, etc. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Sure. Okay. Marcion 9:5. Him shall also the Son of Man confess before God. Luke 12:8. Him shall the Son of Man also confess before the angels of God. Similar differences in the next verse. Marcion 9-34. And if he shall come in the evening watch, and shall be them so, and shall find them so, blessed are those servants. Luke 12:38. And if he shall come into the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. Marcion 9-42. And the Lord of that servant will come and will cut him in sunder, and will appoint his portion with the unbelievers. Luke 12:46. The Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. Marcion 13:29. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them out. Not after one has risen from the dead will they listen. Luke 16:29-31. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. Marcion 14:10. So likewise ye, when ye shall have done all those things which are commanded you. Luke 17:10. So likewise ye, when ye shall have done all those things which are commanded you, say, We are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. Marcion 15:31-32. And it came to pass, as he came near to Jericho, a blind man cried. See, that's where it's going to get crazy, because I can't go back and forth. So whatever. And it came to pass as he came near to Jericho, a blind man cried out, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And when he had healed him, he said, thy faith hath saved thee. Luke 18 to 35 to 43. And it came to pass that as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging, and hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant. And they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passed by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And they who went before rebuked him, that he should hold his peace. But he cried so much the more, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, he asked him, saying, what wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Lord, that I may receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, etc. Hold on. Yeah, there's still a ton. Where's my pencil? I moved everything around. Yeah, I am going to stop right there. Yeah, I don't want to mark that though. Do a little mark like that. I like it. I don't like putting marks in the books too much. Yeah, that's how I'm going to do these from now on. Yeah, I guess I'll have it stop there. Especially this book. This book's going to get done that way. I will be scanning, or I'll do the book, and then I'm going to run it slow scroll, because the way I know how to do subtitles, or the way that it generates them, is horse pucky, and I don't like it, but I also don't have time to edit it. So this is the way it has to be, because people do like to read this stuff, and some people like to listen to this stuff. I don't know. And yeah, so I'm just kind of like letting you know, it's going to change up a little bit. So I'm just letting you know. If you don't like it, you can let me know. We can work together. I'm a very understanding man, but that's the way I kind of want to do it. So